Hi guys, welcome back to the channel, FPL Consult here, and today we're going to take a look at my Game Week 5 early transfer plan. So I know we are pretty early into the international break, but I did want to give you guys some idea of what I plan to do with my team. Later on during the international break, when we get more news, I will post an updated transfer plans video. But for now, I do want to share with you guys what's going on in my head. So hopefully you guys do enjoy this video, and if you do, please give it a like and also subscribe as well if you are new around here. So I wanted to start this video with a lay of the land and basically take a look at the fixture schedule for the next couple of game weeks, namely game week 5 to game week 8, and that's because, as we can see on this graphic here by Legomane, do drop him a follow on Twitter. This graphic is really useful, and basically what he's done is he's laid out all the fixtures from game week 5 to game week 8, and post game week 8 it's already the next international break. So the way I see it is we can view this as a block of fixtures from game week 5 to game week 8. He's also included the Carabao Cup as well as the Champions League. So immediately once I take a look at this this fixture ticker here as well as the fixture crunch, I can already see a couple of teams that we would want to target now in game week 5. There are a couple of teams that I do want to focus on for this ticker, and that is Newcastle and Tottenham, namely because there are some people thinking about bringing in assets from Newcastle because of their fixture swing. As we can see here, Brentford at home, Sheffield away, Burnley at home, West Ham away from game week 5 to game week 8. So green fixtures all around for Newcastle, so people want to target Newcastle as well as Tottenham because they play Sheffield now. Sure, they have a tough run in game week 6 and 7 where they play Arsenal and Liverpool, but after that it looks good as well. From game week 8 onwards, we see Tottenham play Luton Town, and in game week 9 they play Fulham as well. So these two teams I do want to focus on before we take a look at my team for game week 5, and for a couple of reasons. Aside from the fact that a lot of people are thinking of bringing these players from these teams in, I do want to focus on the fact that they have quite a tight fixture crunch for Newcastle, right? And Tottenham, of course, they're out of the Carabao Cup, they're out of Europe as well, they're going to have loads of rest, so Tottenham will be a different story. But talking about Newcastle, I do want to take a look at their fixtures here. As we can see, I mentioned already, it's green fixtures all around for the Premier League fixtures, but what kind of bothers me is that not only do they have the Carabao Cup against Man City in round 3, which is between game week 6 and game week 7. So between their Sheffield and Burnley games, so already that spells rotation if they want to field a strong team against against Man City in the Carabao Cup, right? But their European, their Champions League games basically also come between game week 5 and 6 as well as 7 and 8. So the Legomane hasn't filled it in here, but between Brentford and Sheffield, Newcastle actually play AC Milan, and between Burnley and West Ham, Newcastle play PSG. So these are tough fixtures for Newcastle, and the fan base already expects Newcastle to go all out and fight for these Champions League matches. So I would expect to see heavy rotation for Newcastle, especially for players like Kieran Trippier, who's slightly older now, and they do have reasonable replacements like Livramento, and in the back line there are reasonable replacements all around, right? Lascelles could come in for Fabian Schär, Dan Burn could come into the left centre back in place of Botman, even though Dan Burn isn't great at that position at all, right? And then sometimes we could see Lewis Hall come in for left back, right? We do expect to see that happen soon enough, right? So at the end of the day, the point is that there will be a lot of rotation for Newcastle, I would expect, because if you take a look at the dates for these fixtures, it's a couple of days of rest, right? About 3 to 4 days of rest, and then they play the next fixture. And these are easy fixtures in the Premier League, followed by tough fixtures away in other games like in Europe or in the Carabao Cup. So I would fully expect to see some rotation, right? And that's why I'm kind of dialing down on how hot I am on Newcastle players. And in fact, later on you'll see in my transfer plans, I'm actually considering other players other than Kieran Trippier, just because I feel like there is too much of a risk going for Kieran Trippier, right? So for now, that's about Newcastle. I do want to focus on Tottenham as well, because there are a couple of people thinking about going for Tottenham. So my thoughts right now is that I currently have no Tottenham players in my team. Yes, they do play Sheffield at home now in game week 5, but after that they have Arsenal in game week 6 and Liverpool in game week 7. So I do know that Tottenham are playing really well, but I do feel like just bringing them in now in game week 5 may be a little bit too premature, because 6 and 7, they have tough fixtures. Maybe in game week 8, I'll bring them in. So that's currently what I'm thinking, but I'm fully aware that there are people who want to target this Sheffield at home game for Tottenham. Players like Son, players like Maddison you want to bring in. So I fully understand that as well. But I think the fixtures from 6 and 7 are what's putting me off slightly. So for the moment, I am tempted by Son, I'll admit, right? And I am trying to look at ways to try and fit him in, right? But looking at my midfielders later on as well, you'll see I'll be removing good players for Son as well. So that's not something that I'm not really too keen on as well, but we'll discuss that later on. And that's basically what I wanted to share about Newcastle and Spurs. So let's take a look now at the squad balance that I have for my team. So this is my squad balance for game week 5, and I'm going to admit there are no real pending transfers for my team, so I'm not going to make up content and say I'm going to have great and exciting transfers, right? It could end up being just a bench transfer or something, right? But I feel fortunate to be in this position. Of course, we are early in the international break, so a couple of us will also find ourselves in this position where our teams, at the moment, our existing teams look fine, right? So fortunately enough, once again, no pending transfers because I don't feel like there are players that I urgently need to sell, right? And currently, there are a lot of players in my short-term holds and mid-term holds as well as my foundation. So focusing on the short-term holds first, I have Eze, Foden, Jackson, and Estupiñán. So they're in the short-term holds for a couple of reasons. Now, Eze, I know, just returned against Wolves, so happy days there. He actually boosted my rank quite a bit. So I'm actually 317k in the world right now, courtesy of that Eze haul, because that is a differential for me. But I do feel like moving forward, I may want to jump on other assets once the fixtures swing, come maybe game week 8, game week 9. I think Diaby from Aston Villa is someone that I can consider. Bowen from West Ham, also someone I can consider, and I think there are reasonable replacements for Eze. So I am looking to sell Eze later on. For now, I think he's definitely a hold for the short term at least. Right, for Phil Foden, of course, Champions League, as I mentioned, is coming in, so we could see more rotation there. So I'm not too keen on holding Foden for that long. The next 3 fixtures for Man City are pretty good, so I'll hold him for now. And then after that, I'm looking to sell Phil Foden. And there are a lot of options in midfield, as we already know. Right, for Jackson, once again, it's kind of a fixture play where I think in the next couple of game weeks, after he plays his easy fixtures, I can look to sell him, maybe for someone like Ollie Watkins. And obviously, Jackson isn't performing to the level that we hope, so hopefully in the next 3 games, at least while I still have him, that he does well, right, before I sell him off once Chelsea's fixture swing turns the other way, right? And then for Estupiñán, of course, he's in the short-term holds for the moment, simply because his fixtures currently aren't great. And if I am looking to get some funds from players that I want to sell, I think Estupiñán at 5.1 or 5.2 is a player that I can potentially consider selling because his fixtures aren't great at all. Alright, so, but for the moment, once again, he's also still a short-term hold. In the mid-term holds, these are players I'm slightly more confident of holding for a longer term. So firstly, there's Udogie. I just brought him in for Gabriel. There's Mbeumo as well. Brentford's fixtures are pretty good for the medium term, so I think I can hold him as well. Same for Rashford as well. I think Manchester United fixtures across the next couple of game weeks are pretty good. Rashford, of course, looking great on the left-hand side after he shifted back there. So hopefully he plays there more often, and we see Højlund in the middle, and maybe some link-up play between them can help Rashford get more returns as well. I'm happy to have Rashford for the moment now ahead of Bruno Fernandes as the only Manchester United asset in my team. And then, of course, in the foundation, these are players I don't think I'll sell anytime soon. Haaland, Saka, Chilwell, Onana. Onana, I've kind of made my bid and I have to lie in it because I don't think it is worth it to spend a keeper transfer. Even though I don't have any pressing transfers, I think it may be more useful for me to have 2 free transfers, roll the transfer this week and have 2 free transfers later on as well. So Onana for now is a hold for me, as much as I don't really like having a Manchester United defense in my team. Right, and then for Chilwell, hopefully he starts to return his chances. He's still getting those chances. He's still creating a lot as well. So I do think that Chilwell is still definitely a foundation player for me. me. Now on the bench, there's Turner, Colwell, Osula, and Kabore. Now the thing with Turner, Osula, and Kabore, they are going to start becoming issues, so I may have to make some transfers there if I do have free transfers and I can strengthen my bench. But Turner, of course, we know that Nottingham Forest has now signed a new keeper, so Turner may lose his place. We'll monitor that as well. For Osula, Archer has come in, so obviously Archer did really well, and it seems like Osula will be second fiddle to Archer. And then for Kabore, he got benched in game week 4, so not a good sign as well. So technically the only great player on the bench I have for me at this point in time, which isn't too great as well, is Colwell, right? Obviously now in game week 5, we'll see he plays Bournemouth away, so I can hold him. And in fact, there was an injury scare where they thought that Colwell had an injury to his hamstring. But thankfully they did a scan yesterday, and I'm recording this on Tuesday. They did a scan for him on Monday after the Chelsea game, and the results came back really good. So that's good because I'm not forced into a defensive transfer to take Colwell out. So for the time being, I have quite a thin bench, but I think my starting 11 players are good enough. So for the time being, this is what I'm thinking about my squad. Let's take a look at how the team looks like for game week 5 without making any transfers. So currently this is how my team is shaping up in game week 5 without transfers made, and as you guys can see, it's kind of a situation where there aren't a lot of pressing transfers to make. I can't just bench Onana and then start Turner, who plays Burnley at home. Hopefully he still keeps his place. I do think like in the next couple of games we may see him lose his place, but I think for game week 5 at least Turner should continue to start. And then in defense, I have Udogie, who plays Sheffield, great fixture for him. Colwell and Chilwell doubling up on the Chelsea defense here with Bournemouth away. Now, of course, ideally, I wouldn't want to double up on a Chelsea defense against any opponent because they do look very shaky in defense at the moment. But I think Colwell against Bournemouth away, I could take a chance there and just keep him. Of course, there's also arguments to say that I could replace Colwell with a Newcastle defender potentially. So these are things that are in my plans, and I'll tinker around later on with the transfer planner. In midfield, I have Saka, Mbeumo, Foden, Rashford, and Eze, and all these players returned in game week 4. And honestly speaking, I had no plans to remove any of them, but I am tempted by Spurs assets now. Even though I'm not super hot on them, I'm definitely tempted by Son. But I'm looking at my midfield here and I'm thinking, who would I replace? Who would I take out and bring Son in for? Right, so Saka I'm definitely keeping. Mbeumo has decent fixtures moving forward and he's really cheap. He's great value. There's no reason for me to sell him. For Foden, maybe, but as I mentioned, the next 3 fixtures look pretty good for Man City. They score so many goals. I don't see a pressing reason to sell Foden. Rashford, of course, I like him on the left right now. His expected goal involvement is improving a lot as well. So his data is looking better as we go along throughout the season. So I don't think this is the time to sell Rashford as well. And then Eze, of course, now in game week 5 he has Aston Villa away, but the next game he has Fulham, and then in game week 7 he also has Nottingham Forest. So there's no real midfielder that I have to transfer out urgently to bring Son in. And when I consider that Son also has Arsenal and Liverpool in game week 6 and 7, maybe I hold off on that move and bring Son in later on, or maybe even Maddison if Son starts to taper down as well, right? And then up front, of course, I have Haaland and Jackson. Haaland plays West Ham away, probably going to be my captain as well. Jackson, of course, for Chelsea, plays Bournemouth away. Hopefully he starts to do something. On the bench, aside from Onana, I also have Estupiñán first on the bench because he plays Manchester United away. Of course, there's even a chance that if Colwell is injured, I can still bench Colwell and then start Estupiñán against Manchester United. I could take the chance there because Estupiñán is really attacking. But as I mentioned, Colwell currently seems fit and he's joined the England squad to play in the international break, so I'll monitor that as well. So currently, as I mentioned, there's no real issues, but let's take a look at this transfer planner by Fantasy Football Hub and take a look at some potential transfers that I can make to use this free transfer. And if I do roll in game week 6, the plans that I'm thinking of making in game week 6 as well. So on the screen is my team loaded into the Fantasy Football Hub transfer planner, and let's take a look at some moves that I can make now in game week 5. I have loads of money in the bank here, 3.6, and that's obviously because I had Salah initially in the earlier game weeks and I sold him, so I have loads of money in the bank now. That I can reach players like Trippier, even Trent Alexander-Arnold, but obviously Trent currently is injured, and then Son as well is someone that I can reach, but it's really whether I do want to go for these players or not. So one of the potential moves I'm considering, if I do use the transfer, or if I'm forced to, should Levi Colwill be injured, is Levi Colwill out for Fabian Schär. Now, there's a couple of reasons why I prefer Fabian Schär instead of Kieran Trippier. I did mention that I do expect heavy rotation for Trippier, especially now that he's older. I do think like they will prioritize him for the other matches, like the Champions League matches as well as the tougher matches. You take a look at their fixtures in the Premier League. They have Brentford at home, Sheffield away, Burnley at home. These are definitely fixtures you could see Livramento featuring for Kieran Trippier to give him a rest as well. So instead of going for Trippier at 6.5, who I think because of that rotation risk, it's not really worth the money anymore. Then now Fabian Schär at 5.0 is a player that I'm considering. It seems like Botman will also be back in game week 5, but for the time being, because Fabian Schär's data, as we know, is always a little bit better in terms of goal involvement when they go forward, when they're set pieces, etc. So I think Schär is actually worth the extra 0.5 million that we're going to pay for him. So currently, one of the transfers I'm considering is Fabian Schär in for Levi Colwill. Now, aside from that, let's say I don't do that move, I bring Levi Colwill back in. There is also another transfer that I'm considering, which is to bring Son into the team. But where can I fit him in? I think I'm likely to only sell one player if I do. And that is Eze, because the other players I really I'm not comfortable selling them, to be honest, right? And Eze also, I'm not super comfortable selling Eze, but if I do bring Son in, it will be for Eze. So let's say I remove Eze, obviously Son will be at 9.1, I can afford him, and I'll be at 0.8 million left in the bank. But for the moment, I just don't feel it's worth it, once again, because they play Arsenal and Liverpool in game week 6 and 7. But once again, Son seems like he's going to be on penalties. He seems like he will continue to play in the number 9 spot, because there was already talk of that happening because Richarlison just wasn't that effective there. So if we continue to see Son play there, I will be tempted, and definitely it's one of the transfers I will consider. Alright, so let's say I don't do anything, right? For the sake of this video, let's say that I roll the transfer, then I will be going into game week 6 with 2 free transfers. And at this point in time, I will probably play game week 6. I'll probably play Turner, right? And then for in defense, I'll move Udogie to the bench, who plays Arsenal away, right? And then once again, I wouldn't want to double up on Chelsea defense anymore moving forward, because they play Aston Villa at home here in game week 6 as well. So we're looking really forward here already, right? So I can potentially delay that Newcastle defender move and then save it now for game week 6, where they play Sheffield away. So that's much better fixture. And then in midfield, once again, we see no real transfers needed for me to make. There's Burnley away for Rashford. Saka plays Tottenham at home, but I'm still going to have Saka. Foden plays Nottingham Forest at home. Mbeumo has Everton at home, and Eze has Fulham at home. So all pretty much home fixtures for most of my midfielders, and I actually do think this midfield will do pretty well in game week 6. And then up front, Haaland, Nottingham Forest at home, Aston Villa at home for Jackson. So again, no real transfer. So in game week 6, I could just roll the second free transfer, assuming I don't use that, right? And I just do Colwill to Schär in game week 6 instead of game week 5, right? So once again, this is my team for game week 5 without any transfers made. There's Colwill and Eze, potentially players I may transfer out, but I'm not too comfortable with that. So let me know what you would do with my team. For the time being, assuming there's no injuries whatsoever, I'm tempted to just roll, get more information from game week 5, and then act on it in game week 6 as well. So let me know what you guys think. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, please leave a like and also drop a comment to let me know what you guys are doing with your teams, and whether you're doing the wildcard in game week 5, because there are some talk of wildcard in game week 5 being a decent time to use it for mini fixture swings. So let me know down in the comments below. But if not, thank you guys for watching. Do subscribe as well. We are on the road to 5,000 subscribers. We're going to hit it really soon. So hopefully we can get there by Game Week 5 deadline. And thank you guys for watching. And I'll catch you guys in more Game Week 5 content coming very soon. Bye-bye.